Dean Button. I'm here to call to order the April 23rd meeting of the Hammond Plan Commission, starting now just after 5 p.m. Since we don't have a flag in our individual areas, I would ask for a brief moment of silence for all of those affected by the current virus and all of those first responders, utility workers, public works people who are dedicating their lives to work every day to make sure this country functions. So just a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And then just a couple of housekeeping matters. First off, this meeting is being held in conjunction with the governor's executive orders related to how to handle these public meetings in an as open fashion as we can, to provide an avenue for the public to participate in this meeting to the extent we can, and we're certainly recording that. Just a couple of other items. For those of you during the course of this meeting, hopefully you can familiarize yourself with the Zoom program. That what we're trying to do is, if there's a point in which you would like to make a comment, the first request would be that there's a format or a button on your screen, or hopefully you can find that. I found that by opening the label participants. And then at the bottom of that column, you'll see the list of all the participants. At the very bottom, you'll see raise hand. So Chris Campbell, who is City of Hammond, who's monitoring this, who is our host, will also look for those who have raised their hand, and we'll try to bring you in. And I'm looking at that as well. We'll try to bring you in as soon as we can. Otherwise, we're going to need you to unmute your mic, and then when we call upon you, we'll ask you to make whatever presentation or whatever comments that you'll need. So hopefully that makes sense. To open up your participants bar, and then use the raised hand feature to be called upon. With that in mind, I would ask that the commissioners individually go ahead and unmute their mics for roll call. And Shannon, would you please call the roll?
Roger Brock. Dean Button.
Here.
Alex Seatlow.
Here.
Michael Dye.
Present.
Ann Herbert.
Here.
William Hutton.
Here.
Thomas Kazmierzak. Dan Spitali.
Here.
Sharon Zaney.
Here.
7 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Shannon. Now you can mute your mics for the time being. Thank you for that. I would ask for commissioners, you should have received in your packet the meeting minutes for April 18th of 2020. And I would ask if any of the commissioners have any comments, questions, clarifications, or corrections to the meeting minutes for February 18th. If so, please unmute your mic. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion from a commissioner to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Mike Dye, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Bill Hutton, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes for February 18th, 2020. Moved by Commissioner Dye, seconded by Commissioner Hutton. Commissioners, please unmute your mic, and I would ask for all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is item number 4, which is old business. It is Item CP-20-03, a petition from Form G Companies LLC for the approval of a two-lot subdivision called South Gateway Promenade Addition located at 7935 through 43 Indianapolis Boulevard, which is zoned C2 Shopping Center District within the city of Hammond. And I would ask the secretary if the notification requirements for this action have been met.
Yes, they have.
Thank you. If the petitioner would please unmute their microphone. Hopefully you've selected an individual to speak on behalf. I would ask that you identify yourself, spell your name for the record, and you could go ahead and start your presentation after that.
Fantastic. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Eric Merton, ERIKMERTEN. Address is 100 East 12th Street, Jeffersonville, Indiana, 47130. I represent Form G Companies, the applicant. My business partner, Stephen Schaefer, is also on here too to answer any questions as need be. We started this process several months ago with Mr. Poland, working through hurdles after hurdles. I think we've finally come to a great proposal. Originally, we had two buildings separated through lots of discussions with Brian Poland. We came together, pushed those buildings together per his discussions, and come up with a plan that looks like one building on that corner. We have the tenants of Verizon Wireless, which would be on the hard corner, and then we have Dunkin' Donuts on the far, and then there's a tenant in between both of them. Brian, were you able to send out the presentation that I sent yesterday?
Yes, it was.
Okay, perfect. I won't go through the whole thing. The big thing, obviously, I hope everybody knows where this is at. We're just south of the White Castle on Indianapolis Boulevard, right across the street from Cabela Drive. Obviously, the tract right now is vacant. I've read over both the final development plan and subdivision staff reports that Brian put together. Everything seems fantastic. I think I'll let him, if I can, I guess he'll give his presentation, and then I can answer any questions pertaining to that on the technical issues that he has. I guess that kind of wraps up my presentation as of right now until we come back around.
Mr. Merton?
Yes.
Okay, the case that's been called is for the subdivision. So if you could go through the basic provisions of the subdivision and the division of the lot, any discussion on the site plan, that's the second case following this.
Okay, fantastic. In the packet that was passed out, sheet number 11 will show the subdivision of that tract. Right now, I believe it's just a hair over an acre tract of ground. The Verizon Wireless will be on lot 1. The Dunkin' Donuts and the second tenant will be on lot 2. The subdivision line runs in between the two buildings. It's actually shown, if you'll stay right there on that plan right there, yep. You can see where the track line's running in between the two buildings with a vacant space. Along the very front of it where the V and the F is and Verizon and future tenant, that's going to be a fake facade in between those two buildings with a passageway in between an open courtyard area. All easements, setbacks, and all that stuff. I guess, Brian, how would you like me to address that? I know some of them we meet and some of them we don't, that we'll be asking for some waivers on those.
So Mr. Merton, I would, the variance process would be through the BZA.
No, actually, Dean, it's not.
Okay.
Okay, I thought I was muted. I was trying to figure out the screen, sorry. Under the C2 shopping center rules, when it comes to aspects of the plat in this case, and then also the following case of the development plan, there are some things that are under the control of the Plan Commission. As what Mr. Merton was alluding to is that when it comes to the plat, there are some requirements for minimum boundary line widths of 100 feet, average lot widths of 200 feet, minimum lot size of the lot, minimum acreage of the lot. And so there are some of the boundary lines of the two lots that are now being created do not meet those technical requirements. Those have been called out in the staff report, and some of them were a part of the original case back in 2009, I'm sorry, and that are carrying forward. The ones that are at of current discussion are related to the line that divides the lot into the previous lot 4 into the 2 lots. And that is where those additional items are called out in the staff report as to what is met and what is not met. And then should the Plan Commission wants to approve this plat, you would have to identify that you're accepting these alterations.
Mr. Merton, do you have anything more to add on your presentation?
I do not. I think the subdivision, it appears relatively straightforward. You know, as Brian mentioned, the lot line running down through the center now creates a lot of those setbacks. We tried as best we could along the perimeters to hold the original parking setbacks and all that stuff that were applicable back on the original case. So I do not have any further presentation on the subdivision plan.
So at this point in time, I would ask if any of the commissioners have a question for the petitioner. And if you do, please unmute your mic, and we'll try to take you as orderly as we can. Mr. Hutton.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. This looks like a great plan. I like the idea that you have quite a long area for cars to stack before they get to that window, place their order, get to that window. We have some other locations around, not only in our city, but others that cause us to back up. The one question I do have is on the north side, if your cars were to continue to stack and be on the north side of the Verizon building, would cars still be able to have access to that parking on the north side for the Verizon customers?
Okay, Mr. Hutton, if I may, the case that we're discussing right now is the subdivision, and your question is for the development plan. So can you hold off on that, and we can discuss that when we call that case?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have no questions no. Thank you.
Vitale, you're unmuted. Is there any questions that you might have, sir?
No, I'm fine.
Councilman, thank you. Being no more questions from the commissioners, I would ask that we go ahead and open up a public hearing. So anyone in attendance via this vehicle here, we would ask that you unmute yourself. If you can, please raise your hand as it relates to the software. If not, we'll try to identify you. When you do wish to make a comment, we will call on you based upon your screen name. We've asked that you state your name, spell it, state your address, and address all of your comments to the commission members, not to the petitioner or to other members of the audience. And that please try to keep your comments succinct and complete and concise. And we would go ahead and open that up for a public meeting at this time. Is there anyone attending wishing to speak on this action? Anyone wishing to speak on this action? Anyone wishing to speak on this action? The public hearing is now closed. I would ask the petitioner if they have any further comments at this time. Mr. Merton, do you have any further comments?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Then I would go ahead and move on to ask for a staff report. Mr. Paulin?
Yes, my previous comments were pretty much based on the staff report. Again, we're talking about a subdivision plat, a 2-lot dividing an existing lot that was created about 10 years ago. There are these different lengths of the lot lines that become an issue with how the ordinance is written. Some of them were pre-existing, and some of them, as I stated before, are related to the new lot line that's being created. I'll just jump to the recommendation that the staff recommends that the Plan Commission grant preliminary and final approval of the South Gateway Promenade Addition subdivision plat, subject to 1, you're accepting the lot size and the demarked deficiencies under the Plan Commission's authority under Title Section 8.30 area width regulations in the zoning ordinance 8514. That is all of those lot line issues that we were talking about and the minimum acreage of the lot. 2, final technical review and approval by the city staff of any other potential things that may go on, and the resolution of any outstanding easement issues. That was related to that NIPSCO had come back at a later point in time and asked for an additional utility easement that was parallel to the easterly line of the 2 lots, and the version that you have in front of you does have that shown on the plat drawing. So if the Plan Commission agrees, then the staff requests that the Plan Commission adopt the staff report as findings of fact.
Thank you, Mr. Poland. To the commissioners, any questions for Mr. Poland at this time? Seeing no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve or grant preliminary and final approval of the South Gateway Promenade Addition subdivision plat, subject to the acceptance of the lot size and demarked deficiencies under the Plan Commission's authority in Title Section 8.30 area and width regulation in the zoning ordinance number 8514. Secondly, the final technical review and approval by city staff. And 3, any resolution of outstanding easement issues. Is there a motion?
Mike Dye, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Sharon Zaney, I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioner Dye has made a motion to approve. Commissioner Zaney has seconded. I would ask that the secretary call a roll on the motion to grant preliminary and final approval of the plat.
Dave Button,
Yes.
Alex Stilo,
Yes.
Michael Dye,
Yes.
Ann Herbert,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Sharon Zaney,
Yes.
Dan Spitali,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you. I would also ask that I get a motion by the commissioners to accept the staff report as a finding of fact. Is there such a motion?
I make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Commissioner Dye. to adopt the staff report as a finding of fact. Roll call on the motion.
Dean Button,
Yes.
Alex Stilo,
Yes.
Michael Dye,
Yes.
Ann Herbert,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Sharon Zaney,
yes,
Dan Spitali,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you. That concludes case CP 2003. You will now move on to the next case, CP -20-04, petition from Form G Companies LLC for approval of development plan in a C2 shopping center district located at 7935 through 43 Indianapolis Boulevard within the city of Hammond, Indiana, Hammond, Lake County, Indiana. Would the petitioner please make a presentation on this action?
Yes, this is Eric Merton again with Form G Companies. Again, I apologize for mixing up the cases. This one here, the same presentation packet applies. Everything that I had stated before. I'm talking about the Verizon Wireless to the north, Dunkin' Donuts to the south, a future tenant in between. We have worked extensively with Mr. Poland on the site design, specifically the elevations. If you could go to page number 9, this is the elevation frontage that will be along Indianapolis Avenue. This is a result of a lot of hard work on our end and Brian Poland's end. I think it's something that will look good as you come down the road. There was a question, I believe Mr. Hutton, from the about stacking the cars. Right now on the site plan on page 4, we show about 9 cars being stacked. The Verizon Wireless opens up around 10 o'clock in the morning. Dunkin' Donuts peak hours, I believe, are from about 7 till 9. My business partner, Steven Schaefer, is also on here. If he would like to add anything to that, he has built several Dunkin' Donuts in his time frame.
Steven Schaefer, STEVEN SHAFFER, Form G Companies representative, 100 East 12th Street, Jeffersonville, Indiana, 47130. To address your comment, like Eric was saying, we have added a little more stack than usual for this reason, since it's queued in the front of the building. Dunkin' Donuts, 60 to 70% of their business is done by 10 a.m. So they end up being pretty good complements with Verizon and Dunkin', as Verizon doesn't open until 10 a.m. So hope that, I think it was William who had asked about that. I hope that helps to answer your question.
So to complete the presentation on our end, again, we appreciate the opportunity to have this meeting before you guys. I think everything as far as the staff report looked fine. We're meeting the intent of the landscape codes, the setbacks and all the other stuff that just got approved on the last round. There was a question, I believe, from Brian that he will, or Mr. Poland, that he will bring up during his staff report regarding the entrances. The entrances to the Verizon Wireless on the slide that's on the screen, A is the predominant entrance, which will face the main parking field. B is their secondary entrance. This goes along with some of their internal layouts. Plus, we chose not to put the entrances along the front due to the potential stacking along for the drive-through. I was actually able to pull up, and I didn't know until this morning, the White Castle has a similar circumstance right next door. Their main entrance would be about the same where my A is, and the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through would be essentially located in the same spot. So after introducing that slide again, I want to tell you all thank you for allowing us to present online tonight, and we hope you can give us a favorable recommendation to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Merton. I would ask the commissioners if they have any questions for the petitioner at this time. If so, please unmute your mic and Mr. Hudson. Oh, you're okay. Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I see no questions from the commissioners. I'll make the assumption, Mr. Merton, that you have nothing further to add.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would then give the public an opportunity. So I'll go ahead and open it up for a public hearing at this time. If you would, please use the software to raise your hand. If not, if you have trouble with that, please unmute your mic and we'll try to call you. If we do call you, please state your name, your address. You'll need to spell your name for the secretary, and then address all your comments to the commissioners, not to the petitioner, and keep your comments brief and to the point. So is there anyone in the audience wishing to make a comment for or against this petition? Anyone wishing to comment? Anyone wishing to comment? Being none, I will assume that the petitioner has nothing further to add at this point, and I will close the public hearing. And I would ask that staff go ahead and make a presentation on their report for this action.
Okay. When this was originally approved in 10 years ago, it was intended to be a single multi-tenant building. That was really the basis upon which we started our conversations with the petitioner when they proposed to divide the property and create the two buildings. As Mr. Merton indicated, that is where that connecting wall comes into the fore to kind of still give that impression of a single building, even though it's physically two separate buildings. If you can go down to there's a page that shows the encroachment into the levee easement.
Is that it, Brian?
No, go up.
It's page 5.
Page 5.
That's pretty close.
Okay, all right. So this was a big concern of ours from the beginning. There is a levee easement that went onto this property. What is showing us in the blue area is where they were intending to raise the grade and alter the levee easement, the ditch that was there. Through a lot of discussions, it was determined that a 408 permit was required from the Army Corps of Engineers. They have obtained that, so they will be allowed to fill in that area to level the parking area. Just the comments about the stacking of the drive-through. We require only 8 spaces, and they have, I think they're showing 9. It does bring up an issue of kind of the interrelationship of these two properties to make sure that there is an agreement that allows the cross-traffic flow as well as the cross-stacking flow. Only one dumpster is shown on the property, so there has to be some type of cross connection that all 3 tenants will be allowed to use the same dumpster. Overall, the parking is met, the landscaping is met, preliminary signage information is good. One of the concerns that the staff does have is related to the entrances of the building. The ordinance requires that all entrances face the primary street. And on 2 of the units, the primary entrances are not facing the primary street. That is marked as entrance A and B on the Verizon building and entrance C on the tenant building. In comparing it to the other property or the other developments in this area, White Castle does have their entrance that face the north and south rather than the westerly side of Indianapolis Boulevard, and that is partially because of the drive-through that White Castle has. The other building where the AT&T store is, that building does have back entrances, but they are considered to be service entrances. So this kind of goes into how the staff is concerned that we're not going to have that street frontage entrance that we expect in the ordinance, from the ordinance. As you can see from the parking arrangement, the parking is really on the sides and to the rear of the property, so we understand why the layout is as it is shown. We still think that the tenant space, where we're showing where the entrance C is, there should be a companion one on the north side, on the west side of the building near where E entrance is. The space that separates the two buildings is, in essence, a walkway that will bring patrons from the rear loaded parking lot up to the front of the building. So we are concerned about that. The other things that were just to go over with the development plan, there are some issues with how close the parking is closer to the property line that's supposed to be. Those are also within the jurisdiction of the Plan Commission to adjust those items, and they are spelled out in the staff report. But we still, have a concern about the orientation and the entrances of the tenant spaces. The architectural, as far as if you look at the architecture from the street, we consider this to be, designed well enough that it achieves what we call that four-sided architecture, the, equal architectural treatments on all the sides, so that, we don't have a back door, so to speak, facing a public street. We've had examples throughout the city of Hammond where we've had buildings constructed where their back door faces the street, and that has raised a lot of concerns from the public. Those of you that are familiar with the McDonald's at the Menards Plaza, the back of the building faces 165th Street, and there was a lot of concerns about that. And some of the buildings that are in the Food for Less area, in the Woodmar area, several of those buildings have their backs facing the street. So this is the premise of why this provision was written, so we do not have the backs of buildings facing a public street. I think from their architectural design, they have kind of addressed that, but with this four-sided architecture, so it certainly does not look like the back of a building facing street, but I'm still concerned about the entrances coming from the rear of the property. Before I go into the recommendation, does anybody have any questions about any of that presentation?
Any questions by commissioners? Please proceed, Mr. Fuller.
Okay, so staff recommends that the Plan Commission grant preliminary and final approval of the development plan, subject to the final technical review, including the provisions of the compatibility of the architecture, and at this point, they pretty much have met that. But we also need to have documentation of the cross usage of the dumpster, as well as parking and traffic cross-access. 2, the Plan Commission needs to accept the decrease in the setbacks of the building and the parking lot per Title Section 8.3.1 of the zoning ordinance. This is also, the approval is subject to the United States Army Corps of Engineers letter. 3, a resolution of any of the outstanding easement issues, and at this point, those easement issues are resolved. And 5, a determination of the location of the entrances, and as the concerns that I've expressed. If you agree with it as it stands, then you can accept the approval and then adopt the staff report as findings of fact.
Thank you, Mr. Boland. Does the commissioners have any questions for staff?
No.
No.
Thank you. And then at this time, I would ask for a motion that the Plan Commission grant approval, a preliminary and final approval of the development plan subject to the 5 conditions listed in the staff report.
Michael Dye, motion to approve.
Ann Herbert, second.
Motion by Commissioner Dye, seconded by Commissioner Herbert, to grant preliminary and final approval of the developmental plan subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. I would ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Dean Button,
Yes.
Alex D'Lo,
Yes.
Michael Dye,
Yes.
Ann Herbert,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Sharon Zaney,
yes,
Dan Spitali,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. Motion passed.
Thank you kindly. That concludes this action for the petitioner.
Did you do the findings of fact?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yep, looks like I'm getting ahead of myself. I would entertain a motion from the commissioners to adopt the staff report as a finding of fact.
Motion,
I'll make
Michael
that
Dye,
motion.
motion to approve.
Go ahead.
Motion by Michael Dye, or is there a second?
Sharon
Second.
Zaney, I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Dye, seconded by Councilman Spitali to adopt the staff report as a finding of fact. Roll call, please.
Dean Button,
Yes.
Alex D'Lo,
Yes.
Michael Dye,
Yes.
Ann Herbert,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Sharon Zaney,
Yes,
Dan Spitali,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. We'll move on to the next action item, which is item CP-20-05, petition of UniFirst Corporation for approval of a 1-lot subdivision called UniFirst Edition, located at 4029 Calumet Avenue, which is zone C4 General Commercial District within the city of Hammond. Is the petitioner available to make a presentation? If so, please unmute your microphone.
Yes.
Thank you. We would ask that you state your name, spell your name, provide your address for the record, please.
Mr. Button,
Yes, sir.
we need the question of have the notification requirements been met?
Thank you very much. Secretary, will you identify if the notification requirements have been met?
Yes, they have.
Thank you. We're ready for the petitioner now. Please state your name and address.
Bill McGivern, BILLMCGIVERN, address 3110 Wood Creek Drive, Downers Grove, Illinois, 60515.
Thank you. If you could proceed with your presentation.
Sure. I wanted to start by thanking Lakeisha, Shannon Morris, and Brian Poland. You guys have been rock stars in helping us, Arco Murray, help our client UniFirst in pushing this ball along. I know we faced a lot of hurdles, and I just wanted to spend a moment to appreciate all of the hard work that you guys have put into this. It is not going unnoticed. UniFirst Corporation currently has an industrial laundry facility at 4545 Calumet Avenue. They acquired that facility a few years back from Arrow Linen. UniFirst has since outgrown that facility. If you've walked through, it is packed wall to wall. So the plan is to consolidate 5 parcels of land at 141st and Calumet Avenue on the northeast intersection. And build a 65,000 square foot industrial laundry. I think that's the general background.
Mr. McGivern, do you want to address specifically the subdivision that's before the Plan Commission?
Sure. There it is, the Olympia Plaza second edition. There are 5 lots: lot 1, lot 2, lot 3, lot 4, and lot 5. They're all being consolidated into a single lot, which is 5.93 acres in size.
Okay, and then, so in addition to the, so when you're talking about the 5 lots, you're referring to also that property that's just to the immediate east of the 4 platted lots that is adjacent to the toll road property.
That's correct.
Okay. And then if the Plan Commission members would look at the subdivision plat along 141st Street on the south side of the property, there is a little notch in the subdivision that refers to an outlot A of, I believe it's Mobile Oil subdivision. That property was, long story short, the city acquired that property from the county due to back taxes. And that property has been offered through the redevelopment commission process. And I believe UniFirst had provided a bid on that at the redevelopment commission meeting on Tuesday for them to acquire that property. So as we're going forward with the subdivision, the current version of the subdivision excludes that piece. And practically speaking, what we'd like to see happen is that if the little notch parcel is ultimately acquired by UniFirst, that we put that as part of, incorporate that into this plat, a modified version of this plat. I think that, we can still work with them on the issuance of the foundation permits while this is happening, and go through some of those hurdles to try and move this along. But I think ultimately it would serve everybody is that if we get all this property into a single lot, and rather than doing one subdivision now and coming back later with a second subdivision. One of the cleanup items of this subdivision is that the Olympia Plaza subdivision had a whole bunch of internal access easements and utility easements. And the documents that have been prepared that will release all that, and that will become part of the recording process once the plat reaches that level. Does anybody have any questions about that or comments on that acquisition? Mr. Lane, do you have any comments on that process?
No, Brian, I do not. Thank you.
You ready to move forward with the public hearing, Brian? Or ask? We've asked the commissioners if they have any comments. Are we ready to move forward?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make the assumption that the petitioner doesn't have any additional comments at this time. So we will move forward with the public hearing.
Dean, I think Dave's trying to get your attention.
Sure, Mr. Westland.
I used the raise my hand function.
You sure did.
Yeah, I did, and that wasn't working, so I just figured I'd raise my hand, literally, right?
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify Brian's comment and state for the record that UniFirst was the only bidder on the adjacent parcel, and they did bid more than the minimum bid amount at the redevelopment commission meeting. So while we still need to get a purchase agreement together, it appears more than likely that that'll happen.
Thank you, sir.
I'll go back on mute.
I'll be more attentive. I need a producer over here to help me. More of that to come. So I would open this point in the meeting to a public hearing. If there's anyone attending this meeting that wishes to speak, I would ask that you state your name and spell your name and your address. Direct your comments to the commissioners and make your comments succinct. Anyone in the group wishing to make a comment on this petition? Anyone wishing to comment? Anyone wishing to comment? Being none, I assume that the petitioner has nothing more to add at this point, and therefore we'll close the public hearing at this time. And I will ask if the staff would then make a report. I would say that unfortunately I'm unable to find my staff report at this time, so I'm going to need some help from my fellow commissioners to help me with a motion at a future time. Thanks. Mr. Poland.
Okay. My previous comments are substantially what's in the report, other than, you know, making the technical comments of meeting minimum lot sizes and all those types of things. I just want to state for the record on the issuance of the permits, one of the hiccups that we're all facing is that the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan approval from the Lake County Soil and Conservation District is kind of being held up because of their COVID restrictions and their ability or lack thereof to respond effectively. So we are trying to, you know, through the staff, work through that to try and see or work around that to see how we can get them the permit to start the construction of the building. And the subdivision with this process of the redevelopment commission, we can try and see if we can get the plat into ultimately its final form and have a single lot and not any other complications of property ownership. Staff's recommendation would be that the Plan Commission grant preliminary and final approval of the UniFirst Edition subdivision plat as presented. That's a slight amendment, subject to the final technical review of and approval of the staff of any of the normal technical issues and the recordation documentation of the utility easement releases. I'd also ask if the Plan Commission would then say, subject to the Plan Commission working out the revisions to the plat that would be necessary, assuming that the acquisition of this parcel is completed, and defer that to staff and not have to go back to the Plan Commission. That would be a number 3. And then if the Plan Commission agrees, then the staff requests that the Plan Commission adopt the staff report as amended as findings of fact.
Stand by, please. Okay, I tried to get most of that. I may need some help. Any questions for staff or excuse me, from the commissioners to Mr. Poland? Any questions? Okay, and I would entertain a motion to grant preliminary and final plat approval as presented, subject to final technical review, any staff related adjustments, also subject to the recordation of any easement releases, and subject to the Plan Commission's, well, actually the staff's agreement to, or the staff's being okay.
Granted authority to?
Plan Commission would grant authority to the staff to for the releases of the property for the former Outlot A at this time. Is there a motion for that action?
Well, I would say and incorporate that into a revised plat.
Incorporated into a revised plat and the revised staff report.
Okay.
Is there so motion?
Michael Dye, motion to approve.
Ann
Second.
Herbert, second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dye, seconded by Commissioner Herbert. I would ask for a roll call from the secretary.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
Dean Button,
Yes.
Alex Dietlow,
Yes.
Michael Dye,
Yes.
Ann Herbert,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Sharon Zaney,
yes,
Dan Spitali,
Yes.
8 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Yes, and thank you, Shannon, for the record. Mr. Brock, Commissioner Brock is in attendance at this time. Then I would ask for a motion to adopt the amended staff report as a finding of fact. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
seconded,
Motion's been made by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Commissioner Zaney, for adoption of the staff report as a finding of fact. Roll call, please.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
Dean Button,
Yes.
Alex Dietlow,
Yes.
Michael Dye,
Yes.
Ann Herbert,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Sharon Zaney,
yes,
Dan Spitali,
Yes.
8 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Commissioners. Good luck to the petitioner. Is there any further actions on this item, Mr. Poland?
No.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is new business, which is business that was added prior to this meeting from the March Plan Commission meeting that was not held. And that is CP-20-06, which is a petition from Rossman Partners, Hammond LLC for final development plan plat approval in a PUD planned unit development district located at 954 Indianapolis Boulevard within the city of Hammond. I would ask the secretary if the notification requirements have been met.
Yes, they have.
Thank you. And then I would ask the petitioner to identify themselves, state their name, spell their name for the record, and state their address, and make their presentation.
Mr. Button,
Yes, sir.
technical correction on the agenda. It is just final development plan approval. It's not a plat approval. So the word plat should be struck.
So noted. The record will reflect the deletion of the term plat in the agenda item. I would ask the petitioner to identify themselves and so forth.
Rossman Partners, and we were making the application for 954 Indianapolis Boulevard in the district to build a Dairy Queen. And my address is 11061 Broadway, Crown Point, Indiana.
So you're a little bit of a delay. If you could spell your name for the record, please.
Matt Rossman, MATTROSSMAN.
Thank you. Please present your petition. Would you like to make a statement on your petition?
We have, what's that?
We must be on a delay. Would you please make a statement for your petition, please?
We're applying for to build a building there, and we've worked through the staff, and we've had a few changes. We've modified the building and the site plan according to Brian Poland's request. I believe we've met all the requirements and requests that the city has made, and we're looking forward to hopefully getting started in the project soon.
Your project is a Dairy Queen to be constructed. It's a retail food service.
Yes, sorry, I thought I said that already, but might have got lost in the delay. It's a Dairy Queen. It's referred to grill and chill. It also has the Dairy Queen side of it, but also the hot food side of a Dairy Queen as well. It's about 3,000 square feet, and it has some outdoor dining to it and a drive-through.
Is there any level of investment and number of employees that are going to be included in the development?
Yeah, I believe that was in the original application that we made. I do not have that application information in front of me right now. I believe the building cost from memory was about $2 million. And then the number of employees, I don't remember off the top of my head without looking at the application.
That's fine.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that information about the investment would have been provided to the Redevelopment Commission as part of the determination of compliance process. And I don't have that in front of me either to corroborate any of the numbers, but I think those are generally in the ballpark.
Okay.
Is there anything I'm missing, Mr. Poland, in terms of questioning the petitioner?
Yeah, I just want to kind of, put this in perspective for the Plan Commission members, kind of, as I have this evening borrowed ahead from my staff report. The property, 954 Indianapolis Boulevard, is located in the Marina District Development Planned Unit Development District, PUD. It is located up, obviously, on the north side of the city in the Robertsdale-Roby area. Of the 5 lots that are located that are fronting on the boulevard, this is the 5th lot for development. The other lots, there's the Starbucks up there. We're going to issue permits for a Taco Bell. There's a Popeyes and an IHOP, and this is going to just complete that whole area for restaurants, or with restaurants. With that, under the PUD, there's a lot of exterior material architectural requirements. We work with the developer to make sure that they are compliant with those requirements for the masonry, the water table detail, the two colors of the bricks. There's landscaping is provided. There was a lot of discussion about the drive-through and the traffic flow through the property, and they have presented with a site plan that shows the bypass lane that we were requesting and adjustments to the parking field that was agreed to. One of the things that we had talked about, and kind of a little bit belatedly, unfortunately, is the request to have a bicycle rack installed at the development. This request has been made to all of the restaurants that are located up there for them to have bicycle racks. It's a request that ultimately was requested of by the NERC, the Regional Plan Commission, to help encourage people to use the bike trails and to access this property, part of that whole Marquette plan idea. The property is accessed from Roby Drive, which is a private drive, but the building does front Indianapolis Boulevard, and that is the request, that is the requirement for the PUD.
Also, this Lakeisha speaking, I want to say for the record that regarding the bike racks, the petitioner did agree to install at least 1 bike rack on the premises, and Mr. Rossman is aware of that, and he has agreed to that provision.
Okay, so as far as the presentation, that's what we will conclude that for now. If you want to proceed with the next step, Mr. Button.
Mr. Poland, I would ask the commissioners if they had any comments for the petitioner at this time. Any questions for the petitioner? At this point, I assume that the petitioner has nothing more to add to their, oh, Mr. Westland, would you please join us? Thank you.
Sure. I had my hand up again.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, where this virtual hand thing isn't working. But anyway, your question with regard to the amount of investment as well as the amount of jobs, pursuant to Mr. Poland's staff report that was given to the Redevelopment Commission on April 7th and was approved by the commission, states that the proposed investment will be $2.7 million with an additional $0.5 million for interior build out. The completed project is estimated that there will be 10 full-time and 14 part-time employees.
Thank you, Mr. Westland. I appreciate that. And trust me, I'm endeavoring to do it all at one time. So, and I'm certainly not doing it all.
Totally get it. Not a problem.
Appreciate the help. So that being said, no other questions or responses from the petitioner at this time. I would seek to open the meeting up to the public. If there are any people that want to speak, this is a public meeting. Public hearing is now open. If you would please state your name and address, spell your name, address your comments to the commissioners, and be succinct and to the point. So I would ask anyone on online if they would have any questions or would like to question the petition at this time.
Councilman Mark Kalwinski.
Hi, Councilman. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. I've talked with Mr. Roseman previously about the project. We did have a Dairy Queen in the 1st District in Robertsdale up until a year or two ago. Seemed to do very well for a number of years, and the opportunity to have a new investment and have a Dairy Queen come back to the site or to at least the district is welcome. And I appreciate that he also has agreed to the bike rack. I hope that we can get all the others there to agree to that as well. And so it's a good day for the 1st District between this and UniFirst moving forward. So thank you to Mr. Rossman and to the commission for moving on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Very, very wonderful comments. I appreciate that. Then I would, is there anyone else in the audience wishing to comment on the petition? Anyone wishing to comment? With that in mind, I would ask the petitioner if they have any more comments at this time regarding the questions or comments that were made.
I don't really have any more questions. I do want to say we did agree to put the bike rack in, and we usually put bike racks in all of our projects. So that is something that we always like to do.
Wonderful, thank you. So at this point in time,
Outside of that, we're really looking forward to getting the project going. Oh, sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, but we're looking forward to getting started on the project with hopefully a favorable vote here tonight.
Great, thank you. At this point, we will close the public hearing portion of this meeting. I would ask at this time if the commissioners had any further comments regarding the development. Any comments? I would just like to take the opportunity at this time to commend the developer in this project. I was involved along with Mr. Poland on the layout and a resolution. We're grateful that the petitioner understands the goals that the city's trying to set. We're thrilled, as Councilman Kalwinski said, to have the business basically return to Hammond, and are very grateful. So thank you for your development opportunity. Let's see. At this point in time, I would ask that the staff make their presentation regarding the petition.
Okay, in your staff report, or in your packet, you should have the staff report. I'm going to refer to page 2. Anytime you're reviewing a development plan in a plan unit development, there are 15 provisions that are laid out here that need to be addressed. I won't go through them all, but I pretty much addressed most of them in general in my previous comments. Basically, what it comes down to is that we feel that the project does comply with the PUD requirements. It complies with the development agreement that is on the property, and the redevelopment commission did determine that it was compliant with the redevelopment plan. So with a lot of that going forward, the staff recommends the Plan Commission approve the final development plan subject to the final technical review of the city staff. In your staff report, you will also see a reference to the findings of fact, in which there are 4 provisions. Those are ordinance-based provisions that need to be specifically called out. Basically, we're saying in the first one that the development plan complies with the standards of the PUD District Ordinance 9310. And as well as there are other applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance. This lot 4 is related to, that's already a pre-approved subdivision, and it was already previously determined to be compliant with the subdivision control ordinance. The proposed development is compatible with all the adjacent developments, and then it's therefore overall the development is consistent with the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Mr. Poland. I would ask the commissioners if they have any comments for the staff, any comments or questions for staff. Looking for hand raises. Any comments or questions for staff? Being none, I would entertain a motion to find that the project has been determined to be compliant with the redevelopment plan for the area, and that the Plan Commission approve the final development plan for the Dairy Queen restaurant, subject to final technical review of city staff. Is there such a motion?
Michael Dye, motion to approve.
And Herbert, second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dye, seconded by Commissioner Herbert. I would ask for a roll call, please. Ms. Morris-Smith.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
Dean Button,
Yes.
Alex D'Lo,
Yes.
Michael Dye,
Yes.
Ann Herbert,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Sharon Zaney,
Yes.
Dan Spitali,
Yes.
8 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you. I would also entertain a motion that the Plan Commission adopt the staff report as findings of fact, and also make the following findings of fact. 27.05A1, the development complies with the applicable standards of the Marina District Development PUD District Ordinance 9310 as amended, and applicable provisions of the Hammond Zoning Ordinance 8514 as amended. The development is compliant with the preliminary plan of PUD as modified. Also 2705A2, Lot 4 of the subdivision is compliant with the Subdivision Control Ordinance. Also 27.05A3, the proposed development is compatible with the adjacent development. And item 27.05A4, the proposed development is consistent with the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan. Is there such a motion?
Michael Dye, motion to approve.
A second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Dye, seconded by Councilman Spitali, to adopt the staff report as a finding of fact. May I have a roll call, Secretary?
Roger Brock,
Yes.
Dean Button,
Yes.
Alex D'Lo,
Yes.
Michael Dye,
Yes.
Ann Herbert,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Sharon Zaney,
Yes.
Dan Spitali.
Yes.
8 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you, commissioners. Congratulations to the petitioner. Looking forward to working with you. So concludes the new business for this evening. I would then move on for any correspondence for the commission.
No correspondence.
Thank you. Item number 6 is commissioner comments. Any comments from the commissioners?
And
And
And Herbert, I just want to say that this has been a wonderful experience. This is my first Zoom meeting, and I like it.
I appreciate you saying that. It's been enlightening and little bit disorganized from my end, but I think things are running real well. I appreciate all the help, particularly from our IT department and our video coordinator, and certainly staff, our attorney, and all the plan commissioners. It's a joy to work with you all. Any other comments from commissioners? And I would move on to staff comments. Mr. Poland, any staff comments?
Yeah, at this point, I do not know if we're going to have a May Plan Commission meeting. So we will advise you once we have that determined.
Very good. I would just ask our attorney, I just want to make sure, Mr. Westland, that we've complied with all of the open door policy requirements set forth by the governor's order and the mayor's executive orders.
Yeah, and you did a nice job. I know I've run one of these before when you're trying to look at hands and people trying to say stuff and still stay focused on what's at hand, and not bad. Pretty good job, Dean. So
thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Westland. Being there no other business before this commission, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Bill Hutton, I so move.
Thank you,
Zany, second.
Thank you, Commissioner Zaney. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. See you next time. Thank you.
Stay safe, everybody.
You too, sir.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Care.
Bye.